They say that morning comes for you.
So recently, a lot has changed. And one of the things that has changed is the fact that we moved out of the city at the beginning of quarantine for obvious reasons. And now 6 months later, we decided to move back in. But the one thing that hasn't changed is how freaking expensive Toronto is. So before I get into this video, I just wanted to mention real quick that I am very, very lucky to be in this position, and I don't want to gloat and show off. I just kind of thought it would be a good video idea to show the process of getting an apartment in Toronto. I am really lucky to be in the position where Evan's parents can help us a lot, and that's why we are here now and I'm making this video. So over the past 2 months, I've been praying, begging to the sky, God, the universe, whatever, to give me an affordable apartment in Toronto. So if you know what the prices in Toronto are like, you're probably wondering how come you let go of that apartment you were at before. And the truth is that apartment was just ugly. It had ugly floors, ugly kitchen, ugly lighting. So after there was a leak on the apartment above us and it left us with a wet kitchen and black mold, we decided it was time to move out. So if you're watching this video because you're looking to buy or rent an apartment in Toronto, I'm gonna go ahead and give you a few tips that I found useful whenever I was renting or buying apartments in the city. But if you just wanna go ahead and watch a montages of all of these expensive apartments, I recommend you to skip ahead. So the main pages I recommend for looking at apartments if you're renting, it's probably condos, Kijiji, and Toronto rentals. Those three are really good, but when we decided that we wanted to actually buy a property, we moved into House Sigma. House Sigma was the best because it shows you all the statistics about the property you're looking for. It can show you previous prices and prices that are right now. It tells you if they're too high, too low, or how did they compare to the area that you're looking for. And when you find the apartment that you're looking at, you can find apartments in the same building and what are their prices. So that way you're more prepared when you go see the apartment and you know what you should be offering. The second thing that I would recommend is that if you're renting, you should start looking for apartments around 6 to 8 weeks before the time that you are planning to move into the city. Usually April and May are the times where the most apartments are available because students are getting out of the city to go visit their families or they're taking the summers off. So there's usually more offers around that time, and the hardest time is around September because that's when people's coming back to school. But if you're buying a place, I'll recommend looking for an apartment way before that. Like I would say 3 months, because it is hard to find an apartment that kind of matches all your criteria and also matches your price. And from experience, I feel like it's harder if you are buying than if you're renting. Unless, of course, you have the money for it, and then lucky you, go ahead, buy your thing. You probably don't need much time, because if you can pay that premium, then you can go ahead and probably don't need to find a fixer-upper. The other thing is that if you are renting an apartment, you should schedule the viewings for 2 to 3 weeks before you're expecting to move into the apartment, because that way you have enough time to see a lot of apartments and put your offer in before someone else snatches that apartment from you. But if you're buying, I will schedule those viewings way before that. I'll schedule those viewings probably 2 months or 3 months or more before that. The thing with buying is that the whole process with the lawyers and the contracts and all of that takes about a month, if not more. So if you're planning to move, let's say next month, you should start looking for apartments and scheduling those viewings probably last month or this month at the latest. And the very last thing that I wanted to mention, just so you have a feel of what the process is like, if you're renting, you are gonna be handed in a contract, and it's usually for 12 months or 6 months. You will most likely, like I will say 99% of the time, you will be asked for the first and last month of rent. So you need to be prepared for handing out that money. But if you're buying, I'm sure that your real estate agent will walk you through all the process. Again, like I mentioned before, ours took about a month and we had to put in an offer. It was a lot of paperwork, a lot of contracts, but the only tip that I can really give you is find a real estate agent that you really feel comfortable with. Our real estate agent in Toronto was really good. It didn't feel like she was pressuring us. We actually met with 2 real estate agents, and the first one was really pushy. Like, it seemed like she just kind of wanted to get her money, wanted us to buy a property, and that's it. Meanwhile, the other one that we actually bought the property with, she was really nice. She walked us through all the steps and explained us how the process was gonna be, because we're first-time home buyers, so we were a little bit lost on the process. If you have any questions, just let me know. And again, I'll leave the link down below of her office, just in case that you're looking for someone in Toronto. Now, let's get into my favorite part, apartment viewings. So after moving from our place, we started looking for renting a place in downtown Toronto. But it's really expensive. It ranges from around $2,000 to $2,500 depending on the square footage and how many rooms in your apartment. So we were looking for 1 bedroom, 1 washroom, and hopefully a den, because we do need the space for the desk. We noticed that the average was around $2,300 for about 550 square feet. Sometimes it was more, sometimes it was less. So it was pretty tiny and pretty tight in there. The main problem that we face, as I mentioned before, is that we have 2 decent desks. They're pretty big. So we need an apartment that has the space for it. Whether it's a 1 bedroom and we put the desk on the outside, or we put the desk on the bedroom, but we need a big enough bedroom or a big enough living room. And this is a big problem when finding an apartment, especially finding a condo downtown Toronto, because for some reason in downtown the apartments are tiny, and I'm talking tiny. And guess how much a 2-bedroom apartment is? Way too much. So this is when Evan's parents kind of hinted us that if we do get an apartment, that money will be going towards mortgage instead of going towards rent. And this is where we do this crazy thing when we start looking for apartments for sale. Toronto, it's a tough market. A very expensive market, to be frank. And we of course can afford an apartment with the size that we want in downtown Toronto. So we decided to move from downtown to Uptown, more specifically to the John area, which I believe in Toronto, it's kind of like a mini downtown located uptown. The area is pretty nice, and I used to live there when I used to go to university. So we figured it would be a nice place to start looking for places. So these are the must-haves for the apartment that we were looking for. A space for both desks, enough sunlight so I don't get depressed, enough space in the living room for us to share, and a balcony area, because it's nice to have a balcony in the summer so you don't feel trapped in a tiny apartment. And now for the fun part, here are some of the 10 apartments we looked at. So the first baby we fell in love with was located about 4 blocks down from John at Harrison Garden Boulevard, which is not bad at all. This was a 2-bedroom, 2-washroom apartment in front of the park and close to everything we could need. It had hardwood floors and south-facing windows, which is like, yes, please baby, give me that sunshine. But the only downside is that it was really awkward. The space was distributed really awkwardly, and it had a bunch of angles that would make it really hard to place furniture and figure out the space for the desk. After that, we moved to the place that was literally just 2 streets over across the park, and this was at Everson Drive. The main thing about this place is that it isn't an apartment but a townhouse, and I really like the fact that it has 2 floors because it separates the living room kitchen area from the bedroom area. The problem is that it had tiny bedrooms and there was no way we could fit a desk in there, but we could maybe manage it on the hall outside of where the bedrooms were. The kitchen probably needed some TLC as well, but it wasn't as bad as the fact that we had to figure out how to get a desk in a 10 by 10 bedroom. We then decided to test the waters a little bit outside of our comfort zone, which was John, and we moved into Bayview and Shepherd. It's a really nice area, but it's just not as developed as John, so you don't have a lot of like restaurants, bars, and stuff like that at a walking distance. There is a small mall and a grocery store nearby, but that's about it. The one apartment that we liked the most from this building was a 2-bedroom apartment, and even though the windows were facing the north side, the living area didn't feel like a dungeon at all. However, However, the master bedroom was really tiny, so it was gonna be really hard to fit a desk in there, but we will have to whether put one desk in the bedroom and one desk outside, or find a spot to put both desks outside. And this is not a deal breaker, since this is kind of like the arrangement that we had before at downtown, but it will be a bit awkward because we would rather not have to use the living room space for a desk, just in case that we do get a roommate. After looking at these places at Bayview and Shepherd, we didn't want to spend anywhere farther away from Shepherd and John, so we came back to Shepherd and John to check more places here. For this apartment, it's located a little north of Shepherd and John, but it's still within walking distance of all the restaurants and the whole shenanigans of this mini downtown area. It is a 2-bedroom, 2-washroom apartment around 900 square feet, which is really big compared to all of the other condos that we saw in Toronto for the price that we're looking for. Even though the washrooms were small and the kitchen wasn't redone, the space flowed really well and the bedrooms were big enough to accommodate both desks without a problem. Also, the kitchen is huge compared to any of the other kitchens that we saw in the other condos. Downsides though were that there were carpets in the bedrooms, which is a problem if you have pets, and the kitchen needed some serious TLC. But other than that, it wasn't bad. And after this, we decided to move again 2 blocks down from Shepherd and John into Avondale. And this is where we saw the most beautiful place. This was a corner 2-floor apartment with all new finishes. The floors were dark, the balcony was big and open, the living room area was a bit small, and the kitchen was tiny. But the bedrooms were big and the master bedroom was huge compared to other master bedrooms. The main downside though is the fact that it was a little over budget, but we were trying our luck and we still put an offer for less than what they were asking for. And sadly, they say no. I'm gonna be forever sad about not getting that apartment, but you know what? I'm still thankful that we got to have an apartment anyways. So after looking at a bazillion apartments and realizing how broke I am and how freaking expensive Toronto is, we had to put in an offer. And I just want to mention that I don't know how people can afford to live in Toronto without having someone else to share the rent or the mortgage with. Again, I consider myself really lucky for having this opportunity. And boy, if you're getting an apartment, consider yourself lucky too. And finally, after some thinking, we decided that the best offer we could put in was in that big south-facing apartment. And even though the kitchen needs some serious TLC, we figured that we can fix that over the course of the years and it will be fine. And as long as Luna doesn't pee on the carpet, we will be okay. I really hope I get to do an apartment makeover video or maybe a house tour in the future once all the furniture is in. But for now, this is all you get. In conclusion, apartment hunting, it's fun, but it's also a bitch. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any tips for decorating, and I guess I'll see you on the next one.